Welcome everyone to Discourse. That's Abel.
This is Tony.
And today we're talking about Ganked in Space by either Sarah Knopf, Michael Anderle, or N.M. Tata, or all three.
Preferably in a residential area. Should be played at high volume.
I started reading this book because Abel forced me to.
Yeah.
You had read it and you were just so enamored with it that you were like, bro, you need to read this book.
Highly recommended for gamers.
Forcibly recommended.
Well, it's for 80s, 90s kids. You know, I think it's a really good book. The author or authors did a really good job. Was it worth it?
I am going to shock you with my response right now. Because I saw, when I was researching this book, I saw your review on Amazon as one of the top ones, and you gave it 5 stars, so I already know you loved it. But I would not have given it 5.
6?
I would have probably given it like 3 stars.
Dang.
3 to 2 stars. I know, shocking. It seems like it should be a book. I know, it's shocking. It seems like it should be a book that's like right up my alley. I love science fiction. I love video games. You're mixing the two, and it should be a perfect blend. But I think maybe I'm too old for the book, or maybe I have read too much science fiction that I'm just kind of like jaded with the.
That don't make sense. You can't do that in space, right?
I don't know. I think that it is good if you like young adult science fiction video game based books, but I think I just read way too much in that genre that I'm kind of over it.
Yeah, I think the author, especially Sarah Knopf, she does write young adult books and fantasy, sci-fi. So maybe you are too old. I don't know. You still gotta love the writing style. You know, it's like...
The writing style was very easy to get into. So there's no like mental gymnastics you need to do to understand what's going on. It's very basic. Although you don't understand why, and there's not a lot of motivation given to the characters. I felt. Yeah. See, I told you. Look at his response. He's shocked. 5-star review. Should I read the summary? You want me to read the summary really quick?
Read the summary.
Okay, just to bring all of yous up to speed. Extermination just got a whole lot more fun. When lifelong friends Reggie, Joel, and Cody fail to win the virtual reality elite championship, they're forced to find real work.
Yep.
And real work is in italics here. So, as a comparison to their previous job of video game playing
Professional
gamers, they have to find real work, italicized. The guys sign a pest control contract ridding space stations of infestation. And that was the part I found interesting. I was like, okay, this is a story about characters kind of in the trenches, right? It's not like some space commander fighting off evil aliens, right?
Just regular kids.
Regular old Joes. I was like, all right, I'm into it. So ShimVens have been spreading rapidly across the galaxy.
And what's a ShimVen?
ShimVen is like an alien. It's like a little bug alien thing.
It's like a mutated bug, right?
Yeah. The bugs eat through wiring, destroying space stations and ships. Reggie took the job because the pay was good and the work sounded easy. Cody and Joel are skeptical, but Reggie convinces them it's easy work. Just spray the bugs and done, right?
Collect the money and move on.
It says in the summary, right? Question mark? Not exactly. They soon learn these pests are deadly. They'll have to rely on their gaming skills if they are to survive. What? They have to rely on their gaming skills?
Well,
is this Ready Player 2?
So you would question that if you were playing like a regular Call of Duty or whatever, but the tournament they lost, it mentions that it was virtual reality. So they got experience training with each other in the virtual world as if they were really there, right? Kind of like airsoft, I guess, in the real world. You could say that's experience.
Yeah. They did say that it was a virtual reality game and it was like a combat game. So they do have skills working together as a team, fighting other players in this game.
You can say it's a little realistic.
To continue the summary, and they're going to need better weapons. Oh, and a mercenary who knows how to kick. These 3 immature guys go off to save the universe. All by accident. So the summary is very good. It got me interested. I was like, okay, video games, space, action with reluctant heroes. Killer bugs, kind of like, what's that action movie with all of those young teenagers back in like the 90s?
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers, yeah, just like Starship Troopers, right? A bunch of young cadets come together and fight bugs.
You can say that, but it's just 3 regular gamers that take a new contract because they lost the tournament, got nothing else to do. I think they were really bummed, so that's when Reggie decided to, hey, let me start a business and get these guys involved.
It is interesting that they took a job as pest control people, right? I mean, the galaxy is open to them, they have a spaceship, and they could go anywhere and do anything, but they decided to kill bugs.
Seems easy enough if you think about it.
Yeah, I guess so. And they do mention that in the story, right? Like it's an easy job for them to get some money and get back to gaming, right? They don't have to think about it really.
Yep. And I think one of their moms kept pushing them to get a real job.
Yeah.
And I think the author, in the beginning of the book, before the prologue, there is a quote that says, to all the gamers out there who had to get a real job. Because it's really hard to be a professional gamer and get money out of it.
Yeah, even nowadays, and apparently in the future, it's also hard to be a professional gamer.
A lot of people try, but...
Which I don't think that's going to be true, man. I think e-gaming is blowing up. Movies don't make as much money as video games.
So another reason to...
The blockbuster video games, right? There's a lot of video games out there.
Yeah,
but the
that's
blockbusters, like Call of Duty, make lots of money.
But yeah, so it's these 3 guys and their spaceship. It's called the Sonic Shuttle, I believe, and of course Sonic the Hedgehog. And there's
Is
references.
that why?
Yeah.
I know it's called Sonic Shuttle. I didn't realize that was why. Okay. So they're trying to pull off this like Ernest Cline kind of vibe where they're referencing like video games.
Yep.
That is a good thing. I like that they make some references to video games, but not overly reference video games, right? That was our problem with Ready Player 2.
Correct.
It was way too many references.
Yeah, and this one though, it's very few, but when they do it depends on the situation and they hit it right on the point. Like when they meet Sam.
Who's Sam?
Okay. So they take on this job and they run out of ammo, whatever, all this stuff. So they decide that they need help. So that's when they go to like this pub or they go to a place to look for a mercenary. And they come across...
And it's like the cantina scene in Star Wars, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Like they go up to this shady area or the shady city in some shady planet and they go into some cantina or a bar or something like that.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of shady characters around.
And it's funny because you get to see how every character is. Like Reggie, he's the business owner. He starts interviewing these mercenary guys, like a actual interview, asking them questions like they're like these businessmen, but they're just biker dudes or just dirty.
It seemed like they were willing to take a job, but as long as it was easy. And Reggie was making it seem complicated. Yeah. I was just waiting for like one of mercenaries to be like, do you offer medical benefits?
I know, right?
Do you offer paid time off? Do you have a 401k?
Right. And they actually get into a fight with one of them, because I guess they insult him. Out of the shadows comes Sam, who's interested because she's overhearing these dudes. She knows this guy they get in a scuffle with, and she actually ends up knocking him unconscious.
With her bad ninja moves.
Yeah, her. So Sam is a woman. You don't know until she comes out of the shadows.
She's a woman?
With stupid Joel, he's like, hey, that's a womanly figure. That's a woman. That's not a dude. Like, that just shows you they're like teenagers, She takes on the job with them because they seem legit. There's nothing else better to do.
She's like, these guys seem pretty legit. She does kind of say that. Like, these guys feel safe, I think she thought.
Safe,
right?
And...
like, she wouldn't have to watch her back with these guys. She could, like, kill them easily, so she didn't have to worry about it. And I think she needed to leave the planet that she was on.
Because there is a little backstory to her. So she's, like, an orphan in Mars or somewhere that only, like, there's a lot of bad people, a lot of gangs, and she ends up surviving, learning how to live on the streets. And she wears a mask. She always has a gas mask on.
Yeah, she has some kind of a mask on. She never wants to take it off. Her character kind of reminded me of like a darker version of Han Solo. You know what I mean? Like a more moody version of Han Solo. Because she was slightly funny. She had a lot of skills. She was a mercenary.
And I think Joel, he's a smart. I'm surprised he survived. He makes fun of her, like referencing Star Wars, if that's like a Darth Vader mask that she wears. Like, are you Darth Sam?
Which is, it's interesting that there's a Star Wars reference in this science fiction book that's in the future. I suppose they could still be watching Star Wars. Or maybe they're not watching, maybe he's not referencing the original Star Wars. Maybe Disney has made like the 500th Star Wars movie in the future.
Disney
and he's
3000.
referencing the new revamped version of Darth Vader.
But they get her, and she takes them to a place where she knows a guy that sells weapons. And so they collect a lot of weapons, and of course they charge their account because she's working for them now, and they buy a bunch of crap, and everyone's questioning them. Who are these like skinny ass kids? What are they gonna do? Do they know how to use these weapons?
And that's another good contrast between who they were and who they're becoming, right?
Yes.
They were just a bunch of kids who were playing video games, and now all of a sudden they're interviewing mercenaries and they're going to shady planets to buy weapons to you know what I mean? Go kill living things. So it's this slow transition from being children to basically being adults.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the authors do a really good job in building that up. Because they each have their own attributes. We got Reggie, who's the business leader, or the leader, business owner. He's the one that starts everything up, and he's, you could say, like the project manager. He makes it all happen. And then there's Joe, who's the smart ass, but he's also He calls himself like a ninja. He's agile, he's quick. But his main thing, he's like a mechanic and engineer. He fixes up the ship, and in one scene, he takes control of these robots that are in the Intergalactic space station, and he uses them to help him fight off these bugs. And then we have Cody, who he's the nerd of the group. He's a hacker. He could hack into like any system, and they use him a lot to hack into like the stations to turn on lights, turn off lights, control machinery. And he always wears a what do you call it? Like a wrist computer?
Yeah, like an armband kind of wrist computer, kind of like you would imagine the Fallout video games having that armband on, and there's got a bunch of buttons on it, and you can control everything.
I really liked it because everything just flows. Everything they each brought to the team, you know, obviously in their gaming and just bug exterminators, you know, it worked out. And now they got Sam.
Who basically does all of the work. All of the hard work, right? Of all the killing and things like that. The story was okay. I feel like I should have read it while I was in like high school or maybe middle school. Not necessarily because that's who the target audience is, but just because I would not have read all of these other great novels first. The Blackjack Geary series comes to mind.
That's
true. What I mean? These very good novels that are fantastic at world building, and then we get to Ganked in Space that does almost no world building. And by world building, I mean, like, what are all these planets that they're going to? How do they fit in a larger universe? What's the government behind this universe controlling the planets? They do mention a couple of times about corporations.
Space station.
I think it's mentioned somewhere that there's like an evil corporation somewhere. But even that is like very standard trope with very few unique things inserted.
So you were just thinking too much into it, man. Like, you know.
I was expecting way too much. You know what this book would be good for? This is a great book to get drunk while you're reading it, because it requires like no like super focus to keep your eye on what's going on, right? There's some novels, for example, Lord of the Rings is a good example of needing a notebook next to you as you're reading, just to keep track of who is doing what, in where, for what reason,
where do they come from,
and how it all fits in, all of the different races and the different timelines, the different ages. Yeah, that's what I meant. But in this book, you need a notebook.
No, it's
you completely understood what was going on. Yeah. So
which
you can be completely hammered and still read this book and understand it.
Yeah. You know.
I think that's why you liked it. You were drunk most of the time, weren't you?
Probably, yeah. You know, what's in there right now? I don't know, but the intro, you know, you can't lie, that could be an easy like transition into a movie. It starts off with a 10-year veteran of the custodial class. So they describe this guy, and he's just saying, I hate my job. Kind of like, what is that old TV show? They work at a convenience store, and the guy's always like, why am I...
Is it a TV show, or is that the...
Or was it a movie? Clerks?
Clerks, yeah, that was a movie, Clerks.
It's like Clerks. But yeah, so this custodian at an intergalactic space station that's just going to open up. He's cleaning everything, and he can't find his friend, so he goes into like sub-level 5 or whatever, and he finds his friend dead, all chewed up and all that, and that's when the ShimVens come into play, and he just gets attacked, and he runs off the space station, and he goes to the top, pushes like the red button, like emergency help, and then that's when it opens up, and here comes those 3 dudes that, you know, bored as hell, and now they're pest control.
Yeah, I can imagine this being a very good, like, low-budget TV series where, you know, the directors and the producers have to be creative with their budget and then actually make some of the backgrounds, and they're reusing backgrounds. And it's just very, like, campy and 22-minute show, 12 episodes in a season, and be done with it.
They get this job just so they could keep the Sonic Shuttle refueled or fueled up, and to keep their frozen food in the pantry. They're not ready for what's to come.
They say that they take it because it's easy. One thing I didn't like also was the fighting scenes. I know you like the fighting scenes, but is the constant like explanation of the different and varied ways that they're murdering bugs is interesting initially, but I lost my fascination with it after like the 12th like interaction they've had with the different bugs and the murdering and the killing and the guts and the exploding, and each battle is like its own story arc as well, right? They start off fighting, they do okay, and then they start getting overwhelmed and they have to run, and then right at the end they find some solution to kill everything, right? Each small battle is like its own little story arc. So it got predictable after a while, and then I kind of got bored of the descriptions of all of the exploding bugs and all the different ways they were going to kill them. I think it needed another storyline to be added. Not necessarily another storyline, just
Well, there is
more depth to the story should have been
There
added.
is more, because there are 3 books that the authors created, and throughout their different jobs, one of the team members, they keep noticing like a certain corporate logo in these space stations that are infested with these bugs. There starts being like all these theories where there's like a corporation doing this intentionally to knock out the competitors.
And that's
like,
what I wanted to see too,
you
was
know.
you're right, there's a underlying corporate conspiracy
Yes.
that we only get to see occasionally and really ramps up towards the end. But it really needed to be in this book. You know what I mean? To break
Yeah.
up the singular storyline of Reggie and Cody and all of his friends killing bugs. Because that's really all this is just friends killing bugs. There needed to be another storyline that weaved through it to break up the monotony of just friends killing bugs.
Ooh.
How many stars would you give it out of 7?
For what it is, because I'm not expecting no Star Wars or no,
You need to bring the juice. When I read sci-fi,
Jeez.
I want it stacked with complexity.
Nah, for what it is and the way the guys interact, for me, I'll give it a 7.
7 out of
score.
7 stars, huh?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Since I know you really like this book, I didn't review it, but I want to read you the 2 reviews on Amazon that gave it 1 star. We'll get your candid reaction.
You're just haters, man.
All right, so this first one from Bill Lippert. Terrible book. This is the title. Terrible book. Shallow characters, uninteresting story. I only got 25% into this book and finally had to give it up. It was billed as a humorous story, but I failed to see the humor. So
Maybe
I know I didn't
tried.
like the book, but I could get through it. He said he only got 25% through it. I don't think you should leave a review for a book that you can't complete.
Yeah.
That's my personal
It's like
opinion.
trying on pants up to your ankles. Yeah, I don't like them.
You pull up the pants there. No, thank you. I'm not.
Jeez,
I can't pull it up the rest of the way when it doesn't feel good at the ankles.
Yeah. Thank God.
And he says he couldn't find the humor in it. I thought it was funny. I didn't like it, but I thought it was funny. So do you think that was a fair review?
Well, I guess people find comedy,
Subjective.
yeah. He probably likes romance stories, so this isn't the book for him.
All right. So the second one from John Brisbane. Lame. That's how he starts it. Lame. What if reality worked like a game? Done before, done better. So, he says, someone who played a video game thought it would be cool to write a story about gamers go to space. And one-dimensional fools who succeed despite their stupidity. And who would care if they died?
What?
So that guy was very angry.
Cody could hack into like any system, go into the dark web and all that stuff, so he's obviously not stupid. One guy could fix a spaceship when it's almost destroyed and hack it, and the other guy, who you could say is just a high school student, started his own business out of nothing.
I think he's confusing
Well,
immaturity with stupidity. They're
two
immature,
different
they're not
things.
necessarily stupid.
In the end, they get the job done. They talk a lot of shit, like those friends where you tell them to do something, they say F you, but they still get the job done, So,
Did you say friend or coworker? Both? Jesus, what kind of people are you working with? And you have friends that say F you? That's rude. Why are you still friends with them?
I don't know. Maybe because I say it back.
Oh, Jesus.
And we're like, all right, see you tomorrow,
Oh,
whatever. I don't know.
All right, we're learning a lot about Abel today. Terrible choice in friends.
Oh, man. So maybe they made a terrible choice in this book?
No, I think it just wasn't. It was a personal choice for me. It wasn't for me. But I could see
Yeah.
other people like you liking it. People
it's-
like that kind of stuff. That's fine.
Yeah, it's very simple, Like, if you want something simple and interesting, you don't have to know backstories or what world is this world from and who this and that, or
Yeah.
just too much. Just a simple...
Like I said, I think we should start a new category of books called drunk book or books to read drunk or
Yeah.
something like that. Because it's simple, but not in a bad way. It's just easy to follow.
Yeah, it's one of those books you could read in like 2 days, maybe 3, while... I was going to say like sitting on the toilet or...
Is that where you do
It's
most
like a
of your
casual
reading? Is on the
book.
toilet?
That's where I'm left in peace,
Just
man.
on the toilet, hunched over with your phone. Like, oh, yeah. That's hilarious.